Hey, welcome back everybody. Thank you so much for dropping by. And well, before we start, sorry for the delay in posting this video. Took 3 weeks, but between vacation time, renovations between the house, company starting, work starting really quickly again. Let's just say I was lost for time. But nonetheless, getting back into things. Hopefully that I'll be back to a video a week. Your best guess right now is to hit that bell just to make sure you get notified every time I do post that video. Without any ado, today what we're going to do is talk about nuts. All the different types of nuts, cashews, walnuts. If you're looking for a snack, basically nuts is a great choice. But not all of them are healthy, and some might even be, harmful for your health, or might not be as good. So how do we choose which one's right for us out there? We walk in the alleys and, oh my God, there's so many of them, But let's take a look at key factors that we should look into when we choose nuts. Are they roasted? And if yes, which oil are they roasted in? If you remember my oil video, it might be something that you want to review to understand that it never really tells you on the box what oil that they'll take and which oil that you'll roast the nuts in. And if all canola oil, for an example, if that's what they use, it might not be as healthy as you want it to be. And that's not the reason you're taking it. And also, talking about roasted, not all nuts are meant to be cooked. We'll review that also. Another thing that you want to check, but I don't see it here in Canada. I haven't seen anything. It might be in the US, but when you select a nut, there's the difference between the omega-3s and the omega-6. Obviously, you want the omega-3s to be a lot higher than the omega-6. Which you do see on bread over here in Canada, certain breads, high quality breads. Because why omega-6? We all know it has a tendency of inflammation, which is the video I haven't covered yet, but I will sooner or later, as soon as I finish these groups of videos. You might have also heard that omega-3s are not absorbed the same way as an omega-3 from a fish, omega-3s from the land I'm talking about. Yeah, it's true. The absorption might not be all the same, but nonetheless, it's still there. The quantity is still there, and it's good for you. So it's not something you should be worried about. So before we move forward, make sure you subscribe. This will help support the channel moving forward for other people too. And if you like what you saw, give me that thumbs up. It tells me if I'm in the right direction or not. Make sure that if you want, also comment, send a comment in there, something you may want to see, something that I missed, something you want me to cover. This is why I'm doing this video, is because a YouTube posted on there and asked me if I could cover the nuts. So there you go. And also, click on that bell if you want to be notified next time I do post another video. If it's longer than a week, at least you'll be notified. So, moving forward, we'll review the common nuts and that we all eat, the common ones that I know out there that I hear and I see everybody. We're going to cover from worst to best for your health. What I'll review is the serving size. Okay, I'll put this little line below there. I don't see it right now, but I'll put it in there. So we'll review the serving size. Obviously, we'll base ourselves on 50 grams of nuts. It'll give you calories that if you eat 50 grams per day, this is how many calories you're going to have. So if you're in a calorie watch, this is something that might be important for you. The most important factor that I see is the phytic acid. Now, check this out. It's not written anywhere, okay, but phytic acid or phytate, almost reviewed as an antioxidant acid. I believe this is the most important factor for nuts. because even though phytic acid has some kind of antioxidant and acts like a preservative, this substance is enough to reduce absorption of minerals and nutrients in our food, and especially in the nuts that you're eating. So basically, it's going to impair the vitamins and minerals that you're trying to absorb from that basic nut that you're trying to eat. So let's take an example. If it impairs calcium, magnesium, iron, zinc, and other minerals and nutrients in the nut, and you eat enough, that means everything that you ate, it's like almost nothing. You're just gaining calories. And if there's some left, it will impair the absorption of the rest of the minerals when it's in your gut. So this is not something you want, because if you already have an iron deficiency, let's take iron for an example, because that happens a lot in women, the time of the month when they don't need the blood that they have, they get rid of it. Some it's a lot more than others, and some of them have some iron deficiency. Therefore, it's maybe something you want to be careful of. You don't want to be deficit even more. I know it's just a small group of women, but still, there's even men sometimes that are iron deficient. But anyways, it's not something you want to, in phase on and make worse. So these amounts, they all, World Health Organization says 250 to 300 milligrams per day. But yeah, that'd be nice. But if at least we knew what that phytic acid is in. So you know what? I'll cover it, and I've written if it's high, medium, low, or very high or very low. At least you'll have a general idea of which nuts are out there that are, have this acid in. And also, just coming back on that roasted, sometimes you'll hear specialists say, "Hey, just roast your nuts." Boy, that sounds corny. Almost makes me feel like one of those jingle bells during Christmas, roasted over nuts over the fire. Anyway, sorry. This is just something that flashed in my head. They'll say if you roast them, you'll get rid of the phytic acid. True, it does break down the phytic acid, and that statement is partially true, but also incorrect for specific nuts, not all the nuts. We'll review that a little bit later. Omega-6, omega-3 ratios. We'll cover that also. We all know too high of omega-6 will raise your LDL, and why the LDL has an effect of causing inflammation on your body. Not something you want. So just make sure you read the labels if you do have that information available to make wiser choice. And hopefully you won't have to do this once you've reviewed this video. I'll cover it for you. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. They're great fats, but are they stable enough to cook? That's the big issue, because remember I just said not all nuts are done to be cooked. That's correct. Monounsaturated fat is a stable fat. There's not much of an issue if you cook it. Not a high temperature, but it will withstand some heat. But polyunsaturated fat is not a very stable fat, and when heated, it will oxidize, and we all know that's unhealthy. If you watch my oil video, and if you really want to go into the nitty-gritties of it, like an example of way of saying it, you may want to review the water hydrogen video that I did. I explained all the way down to electron molecule on what oxidization is really and how bad it is. So that's if you want to learn about oxidization. So yeah, when heated, polyunsaturated fat does break down and does oxidize. And like I said, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, but it may be something that you don't want to do. And there are specific nuts which have a high amount of polyunsaturated fats, which we'll cover, and you don't want to heat up. We will also look the amount of protein, fats, including potassium. Potassium. Why does he want to cover potassium? Well, certain age, over 50, some people do have kidney issues, and even young people, but very little. And if you do have high pressure, potassium is something that may be required not to exceed 4.7. But again, careful. Don't change anything if you're taking medication. Don't take this at high dose. If you think it's just what I just said, don't forget I'm just some science guy that's been studying for 20 years. Takes this information right off university studies and papers written, and I put it down nice and simple for you to understand. It's not from me, it's from them, but still, every person is different. Make sure you understand that if you're able to take that in from your doctors first before you move forward with a high amount of potassium. I just put it there because I know some people in our group and people that do listen to my videos do have high pressure, but again, disclaimer on that, be careful. Make sure your doctor approves it. So that said, moving forward, the first worst nut is cashews. And I say nut, but it's not a nut. It's a fruit. Cashews is a fruit. But even though it's a fruit, I'll cover it as like if it was a nut. It's part of it. Because actually the person who asked me this on YouTube actually loved cashews. And I understand. They taste sweet. They taste good. I love them. Wow, it's like one of my favorite nuts, but it's not something that I eat much often. They have a high amount of phytic acid, if I remember right. And you know what? I think they're the highest one. Oh my God, where's my paper? All right, I'm back. I went to get the sheet. Sorry about that. I just couldn't find it. And yeah, I have to see the amounts, which you guys will see at the bottom of the screen, but I don't see it. And I'm trying to remember just to make sure that I don't go lead you on a false thing. So again, cashews, very high. They're one of the highest in phytic acid. So obviously this is something that, what you eat out of cashew, the minerals and, nutriments, you might not gain that much from it. Actually, it's going to probably inhibit and impair all your nutriments from there. That is why it's one of the worst nuts. They taste good. If you're making like recipes and there's cashews in there, yeah, it doesn't matter. Just put a few in there, just for the recipe. But if you could use another nut, yeah. Yeah, they're good, but most of them come from India and Vietnam, if I remember right. And this usually the case of forced labor and not something you'd like to encourage, So again, absorption in omega-6 and omega-3, they're high, but I mean, it's passable. Can you roast them? Yes. Can you get rid of all the phytic acid by roasting them under 350 degrees? Yes, a bit, but being so high, it's still not one of the best nuts to eat. Yeah, because you could roast them because the polyunsaturated fat is very low in there. Calories is normal, 287. Normal fat, 24 for the size of 50 grams. 8 grams of protein is low. Potassium, 283, it's standard. Moving forward, we have nuts. Peanuts. Again, peanuts. Man, we're supposed to review nuts, and none of these are nuts. Peanut is a legume. It's not even a nut. So, but to me, and basically to everybody out there in nutrition, it's probably one of the worst inflammatory food. Yeah, it's got a high amount of protein, potassium standard, fat, calorie standard, as a low polyunsaturated fat. So yes, you could cook them, but omega-6 to omega-3, we're talking about a ratio of 5,300 times higher. You remember what I said about omega-6? So something you don't want. And to top it off, they have a high, not the highest, but they, remember, I'm going down the list. They have a high amount of phytic acid. So nothing goes for them. Nothing, makes them a good nut, if you want to say it that way, but a legume. Third one is almonds. Almonds used to be my best choice because I like them. I thought they were used to be good, but again, they're still in the very high phytic acid. They're one of the second highest, also in omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which, that's not very good. Even though you cook them, it's, these are special because most nuts you could cook if they're low in polyunsaturated fats, but almonds are the special types. You cannot cook them more than 200 degrees because they create a byproduct which is very toxic for your body, which I'm not going to go into a chemistry course to explain to what it is. But basically, they're about the only nuts which you can't cook over 200 degrees or shouldn't exceed 200 degrees to cook to try to get rid of that phytic acid or in a recipe, because they do become toxic. If you guys want me to open another video later on with that and try to explain that, I have no problem with that. But right now I want to try to keep it as short as possible. Brazilian nuts. Now these guys are medium phytic acid. We're starting to go into medium range. On the Brazilian nuts medium, they're very low in omega-6 to omega-3. Actually, one of the best. We're talking a ratio of 2, which is great. They have low polyunsaturated fat, so yes, you could cook them. Calories is standard. Fat is a little bit higher, which, still it's good fat, so it's great. Protein is low, 7 grams, and standard potassium. But one thing they do have, if I remember right, they have still a great amount of psyllium in them, which is very good for people with issue with their thyroid, which is another subject that I will cover later on, is thyroid and all the possibilities in food and issues and solutions. That's what I was working, solutions for your thyroid, but that's not now. Are there better nuts out there? Because these guys taste really neutral. They don't taste much. Yes, there is. Maybe even for the price and for the taste. Hazelnuts, they're in the medium range. Yeah, these are the next one. The hazelnuts, they're in the medium range of phytic acid. So there is some issue with absorptions there. They got a good ratio for omega-6, omega-3, if I remember right. Hazelnuts, 90 to 1. So it's not that bad. They're low in polyunsaturated fat. So yes, you could cook them. Again, when I say you could cook them, keep it under 350. Because after that, you start destroying a lot more than what you want to destroy, that you want to keep for health. Hazelnuts. Sorry, I'm just losing my line here. Normal calories, high in fat, low in protein, standard in potassiums. Jumping to walnuts. And again, guys, all this, okay? If you want all this information, you have it all in my book in charts, which is again free for now. Okay, I put it on the free part of my book. You'll have the whole chart there. Just take a picture of it, print it out, and so at least you'll know. But when you know the few good nuts that there is and you like them, you stick to them. And if you still want to go for the other ones, I'll give you other solutions for that, but for now, I'm just covering what it is, from bad to worst. Bad to worst. Worst to best. Walnuts, they're also in the medium range phytic acid. So again, there's a little bit of issues for absorption there. They got a good ratio for omega-6, if I remember right. Walnuts, they have 4, which is actually very, very good. But since they have a high amount or high quantity of polyunsaturated fats in them, making it problematic if you do heat them up for the oxidation, you don't want to do it. You probably don't want to roast those types of nuts. So that's one that is a no-no for that. Standard calories, very high in fat. So that's pretty good, polyunsaturated. You got a lot of polyunsaturated fats, which is great. That's what you call good fat. You take a lot of that. Medium, low in proteins, 8, and very low in potassium. So it's not one of my favorite nuts, but still it's out there, and it's in medium. Pine nuts. Maybe some of you will probably hear this for the first time. I heard it for the first time. I don't use them. They're also in the medium range for phytic acid. So some issues for absorption, like all the rest. Great ratio for omega-6, omega-3. They're in the 3.5 range, which is like excellent. As for cooking, yeah, there's a high quantity of polysaturated fats in them. So not something that you want to cook. Calories standard, fat standard, low protein, and standard potassium. Okay? Again, like I said, you'll find this chart in my book. Pine nuts are good, you know, like some make that, what is that, pesto? Yeah, pesto. They make that pesto with it. But if you ever know that you're going to eat that at somebody's place, or you do want to make a pesto and you go get these nuts, you may want to grab a few first and just eat a little bit, like a few nuts first, and see what kind of reaction you'll have to it. Not because you're allergic or have an intolerance to these nuts. It's just because there's a small group of people that did this before and they had what you call pine mouth. Pine mouth is is like a reaction of having like a penny in your mouth. It could last for days or it could last for weeks. So not something you want. Never happened to me, and I remember I tasted pesto before at somebody's place, which they had this nut, and I was surprised to know that this reaction could come for certain people. The next one is pili nuts. Pili nuts. Now we're starting to go into the low range of phytic acid. The good ratio, the omega-6 to omega-3, they have an excellent ratio. They're also very high in calories and good fat, which is great. I mean, for 50 grams, pili nuts, you're going to get like 400 calories, which is the highest in all the nuts that we covered so far. They have a low amount of polyunsaturated, which, yeah, you could cook them, into whatever you want to make as a recipe. Not much to make there. That too, it's not a nut that I eat a lot, but it's been there. A lot of people talk about it, and it's in the store, so I figured I would cover it. You could cook them as long, again, you keep it under 350 degrees. Nothing much to say else about. It's like high calories, high fat, like I just said. One of the lowest in protein and standard potassium. Next one's pistachios. That's my wife's favorite. These nuts are also in the low range phytic acid. They have a great omega-3 to omega-6 or omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which is great. It's like 52. That's not that bad. Let me just verify. Yeah, 52. And but they're also very high in protein, and they have the highest in potassium, 503. So it's great. 11 grams of protein, almost as much as the almonds, and almost as much as the peanuts. But they're good nuts. They have low phytic acid. At least you're absorbing it. As for cooking, there is no problem as long as you keep that under 350 degrees. Same thing, all nuts under 350 degrees. Pecans now have become one of my best healthy nuts, to tell the truth. I love the taste. The nuts are very low in range in phytic acid. They have a great ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. And we're talking about 20 to 1, which is like, that's nothing, which is great. They have a high amount of polyunsaturated fat. Prefer you don't cook them, but I don't mind. I eat them raw like that because I like the good fat that I'm absorbing from them. And normal range of calories, high in fat, which is great. Protein low and potassium low. But when I want to get a little bit more potassium, I just go for pistachios, like we just talked about. And last but not least is one of the best nuts on the market, which is the macadamia nuts. Macadamia. Anyways, I probably butchered that name. Macadamia nuts. These nuts are extremely, extremely low in phytic acid. Ratio omega-6 to omega-3, we're talking so low that you would almost say it's a trace. Okay, so it's not even worth mentioning. They have the highest amount of fat, and 80% of it is monounsaturated fats, which is one of the best fats. They're very low in carbs. Why carbs? Well, people who are on a keto diet, for example. Well, it being low on carbs, and if I remember right, it's so low that it's almost non-negotiable. I can't remember. I didn't write it down here. So very low in omega-6, very low in phytic acid, monounsaturated fats up to 80%, very low in carbs. And could this thing get better? Yeah, they even have omega-7 in them. And if omega-7, if you don't know what that is, it's like another type of omega, but without going into the whole thing about it, which I will later on down the road make a video on that. Omega-7 will probably, well, not probably, but it will help absorption of your omega-3 in your body. It's also, that's a fifth thing. The sixth one, it's also inhibits inflammation in our body. What do you want more? Well, this is great. This cannot keep on getting better. The only bad thing about it that I found about this nut, the only bad thing is if I buy a bag of pecans for $3, I turn around, I buy a bag of these nuts, it'll probably cost me $7.50, $8. They're about 2 to 2.5 more expensive than any nut out there. Amazing. It looks like everything good in this world is we pay for it. Probably the procedure and everything around there. So that covers it, but just going a little bit more in a quick review. Phytic acid in almonds. Let's come back to almonds. Mostly are in the skin. And if you remove the skin out of the almonds, you remove almost a big majority of the phytic acid in there. You'll hear some specialists out there telling you that, hey, if you soak your almonds for 24 hours or more, it's going to remove the phytic acid in them. Well, I did some research on that. I do the research for you guys, and it turns out the journal Science of Direct proves that this was not the case. They tried it for every different possible ways with different nuts and everything like that. Actually, sometimes it'll even increase the amount, but as you could read below, and I highlighted it, that is not the case. So I put the link in below, and all the links that you need to see in below in my notes if you want to go further and do your own information, your own search, and reading. So people, that's it. I mean, if you like this, please do share. Hold on before you turn off, and go see my website of my book. One last note. Since we're talking about good fats, I remember we tried out this this protein bar. Okay, we're always looking for the best protein bar, which is probably going to be my next video: protein powder and protein bars. Out there, because sometimes when this week we're gonna go take a walk, and for my son, he needs to do that for one of his college courses. Believe it or not, we have to go take a walk on a mountain somewhere. I know it sounds crazy, but we're there. We walk 2 hours. It's great to have sometimes an energy bar with you when you just wolf it down, and it keeps you satisfied before you come back home. Well, we're talking about good fats. We tasted this one, and it kept us satisfied for 3 to 4 hours. We weren't hungry. And that's really different to all the other protein bars that we tried out there, and with the best, obviously, protein and ingredients that they put in. But you know what? I've talked to the owner, Susie. I've talked to Love Good Fats. That's what it is. I'll put the link below. These guys have been nominated for, as you could see below. I'm going to put the link on this. And I went through their ingredients. They have some oil that I wasn't happy to see, but I am discussing with them. I have shared a few emails with them. They're very, very low. They have like 1 gram of sugar in there. They have still a good amount of protein. They're not what you call a 25 to 30 gram protein energy bar, but still, the fat now, which we know is a great way to lose weight, but keep you satisfied for a while too. So finally, bottom line, they asked, we had a long chat, and I decided to sign them up. So if you guys would like to have 20% off on everything that they sell, use my link below. Use my code below. As you enter the code when you're going to buy. And yes, you're telling yourself, he gets a part of it. Yeah, you save 20%, I get some money back. It's a win-win situation. I always told myself I wouldn't do this, but I mean, hey man, these guys are so good. It's worth to put it out there. You'll see there's other products that I didn't even sign up, but I'm going to bring online here because I find them so good. So yeah, take a look and review every product. So basically, yeah, sometimes they do give you 20%, but that's if you buy 4 boxes or whatever. If you just want to buy 1 box, there you go. You got 20% off. It's much cheaper than any store that I've been through and I visited, because they're all over the stores right now and they're doing great. So again, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do share, and I will see you next week.